You know, I wish every time I got fatally injured, I would get a Zenkai boost too. But I guess we all can't be Percy, huh? Thank you to our final patrons, Sinners Lancelot, Praise the Sun, Strawbones, and Aaron. And a big thank you to Orlandi, $69 patron, Brian. Now, before we hop into this breakdown / review of chapter 66 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, please, if you're leave, you're almost on the chapter, in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. We can support you for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, live reactions, and more. Now, let's get into last week's poll. So, last week I ended up asking y'all, who did you think was going to put who in a pack? And honestly, it did not go as I expected, but let's talk about it. So, the two options obviously were Chaos Gang and Knights Gang, and I just want to see who y'all thought would take it. And by a long shot, by a immediate margin, y'all thought the old gang was gonna get smoked up, put in a juicy, hold on, let me get it right, 68% pack by the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. We had money on the new squad. Fortunately, well, I guess it's unfortunately for the Four Knights, because they did have 32% competition with the Undead Duo. We thought the Commandment Gang was strong, and notably, he's kind of, the chapter went in a very interesting way, I will admit, like in a way that I'm not exactly sure which way to take it, because technically both sides were kind of right, but not really. Let's see. But enough of that. Thank you guys for participating in last week's poll. I love doing these polls because they get a nice community consensus, allows for a nice good discussion. I love reading the comment section of these polls because they always spark up such good discussion. It's great. So make sure you participate in tomorrow's poll dropping at 12 p.m. Make sure you don't miss out on the amazing conversations and you're ready for next week's review. Now let's get into chapter 66. What's up, guys? I'm Galand and Melascula, and here we are to review chapter 66 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, which is known as the Assessment. And I personally, if you were to ask me, the battle begins. But let's see. So we open up and we get to take a good gander of a conversation, and a conversation in a certain place. We are back in the floating castle of the skies, and we get a quick rundown. Galand and Melascula, the supreme rank of demons, members of the Demon Lord's 10 Commandments. Their great powers laid waste to Camelot. They even brought the 7 deadly sins to their knees once. I fail to see, my lord, why we'd grant those monsters power again. Well, now that they belong to us, the rival firepower, no? And now here's the thing, right? Either Scaling goes crazy because of this, or Scaling goes nuts. Because the thing is, Mortlock, I'm gonna have to come back to this. But essentially, I am glad that one, Arthur has more people other than Merlin and Ironside who are just not yes men, like who just won't immediately say yes to anything that he does and will challenge him on certain things, because reasonably Mortlock is kind of spitting here. Why would you bring back two loose cannons like that literally destroyed your entire nation? Like, if you remember, Galand popped in round start and said, wow, this human nest is pretty crowded. Hold on, I know what to do. Bada bing, bada boom, destroyed a whole bunch of the kingdom. And then Melascula literally put up a dimensional barrier around the entire thing, and then proceeded to revive a whole bunch of dead people. And then Zeldris on top of that, though admittedly, we forgave Zeldris for that. he's a sad, I love Zeldris, and I think he's such a soft boy now. But like, that man really did enslave an entire kingdom. And put them under duress at risk with thousands of people with deadly intent. So like, Zelda's still a demon. I gotta remember that. But in terms of what the 10 Commandments did, obviously reviving them doesn't necessarily seem like the absolute smartest thing to do. It's a little bit off, if you will. Like, why would you even do that? However, Arthur does bring up a pretty good point. As long as they are loyal, you might as well use it. It's kind of like you ever had, I'm trying to think of a very apt comparison, but, well, I guess it kind of works like this. Like, it's kind of like every single time in anime where someone beats up their rival and now beats up their enemy and they're now rivals or now allies, something like that. Or when in anime, like, someone well, it literally is this. Like, someone beat the other gang, and then now some gang members come over and help out. Like, the opposing squad lost, so some squad members join up. That's essentially it. And it does kind of make sense, especially considering the fact that these two do seem to have some sort of mental control put over them. Like, they're referring to him as Lord, Father, Mercy, Daddy Arthur. Like, they're doing all that, and they seem to be completely loyal. So, I guess, in terms of this, it does make sense that Arthur's like, you know, it'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. They were a little rough around the edges, but now they're mine. They're mine. They're my squad. They're my people. We can work with them. Though, I know Arthur's mainly doing it for the dramatic irony. Like, if I was Arthur and I was as powerful as he was by this point, realistically, if the commandments ever tried to rebel, they would die instantly. Like, it is crazy how... It's weird to say fodder, but I can't think of a single commandment. Like, even Zeldris, straight up, even Zeldris, that's in the top 10 of the verse by the end of series. Like, the commandments, especially these, there's no offense to Galand and Melascula, but, like, mid-tier to low-tier commandments, like, they are not threats. They may still be threats to even human, but then again, this is, the state of power that these two are at means so much. Like, I need a direct statement, because Mortlock's statement is a bit too vague for me to be like, direct equals to the cells when they showed up. Because I fail to see, my lord, why we grant those monsters power again. He didn't say their power, he didn't say an equivalent to their power, just power. Like I can provide power to my phone, I can be at like 1% instead of dead. So I'm really not sure what we're talking about when it means power. And this may be the like hardest nerdy scaler, man, you've probably ever heard me in any of these Four Knights reviews. Like, the nerdy scaler in me is going crazy. However, of course, we get to see that Arthur not only is like, well, now that they're under my mental control, this is definitely just more firepower for us, and we need to stretch out the series a little bit, because realistically, like, you could have done it where you just had General Knights, then Holy Knights, then Round Table Knights, and then Arthur. And then maybe have like Merlin and Nanashi sprinkled in somewhere along there. But in comparison to the previous series, it would have been... Four Knights was looking kind of short. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, before this whole like revival of previous characters came in, I was really wondering how Naga was gonna stretch out this series for that long. Especially considering he was implying pretty heavily through Guinevere that there's gonna be like a whole 4-year time skip. So I was legit wondering, like, how we gonna do this? But I can see a reason why now. And the idea that Arthur is peddling here is like, yo, not only is this good firepower, but it's atonement. Like, they're fixing and working back all of their misdeeds against the human race, and now they're going to sacrifice themselves for the human race. It'll be perfectly balanced, as all things should be. And once again, it's very interesting, right? So this does imply one thing. It implies that Nanashi is still alive somewhere. And I know that's like something that I haven't brought up in a while, but ever since Arthur was on this by humans, for humans, only humans, like, kind of beat, I was always wondering, like, did he... like notably, you see on his throne, he has a demon, a goddess, a fairy, and a giant all screaming out in agony. Like, I'm legit wondering, or I was legit wondering, is Nanashi alive? Like, straight up, did once he found out, because I'm assumingly he found out. I doubt Nanashi has been able to hide that secret. I know he ripped off his wings, but even sensory-wise, like, he can't feel like a human, I don't think. I think he would feel like a goddess. Like, we know that you can tell the nature of a creature just by feeling their aura. And notably, Arthur has been around enough demons and goddesses to know what one would feel like. So I was worried that Nanashi was gotten up out of here and maybe put through his throne or something like that. But seemingly, Arthur is okay with the other races as long as they serve his ends, which definitely opens up the door a whole lot wider. Like, notably, we thought maybe he'd only like deal with commandments that specifically affected Camelot or creatures that only affected Camelot, but no, like, Gloxinia could come back, Droll could come back. I'm not sure where Dahlia is. Like, I know we saw him at the end of Cursed by Light, but we know Debusu is missing, and we don't know where Dahlia is. So Dahlia could be taken over and come back as the threat. Like, essentially, anybody who died last series of any decent merit of power, if Arthur is willing to revive people like this, he can revive gosh darn anybody. So obviously a whole bunch of people could come back now, which is, I'll still admit, I'm very mixed on it. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about people coming back. What I do feel good about, though, is that the like button is free. So it's the subscribe button. So if you've been enjoying what you hear so far, hit the like button. Thank you. It would greatly help me out. And if you are new here and aren't subscribed just yet, please hit the subscribe button. We got videos like this coming out every week, and we have content usually daily. But enough of that. I don't know. I'm very back to the whole idea of reviving previous characters. Like, I don't know. I'm very mixed on it because, like, it's a sequel series, right? So you should come up with your own stuff. But we're still, it's not a sequel series like Legend of Korra, where pretty much we skip so far ahead into the future that everyone's dead. So, like, there could be no usage of previous. Then again, we're reviving dead characters. Like, Katara was still alive in Legend of Korra, but it's not like we revived her. It's just that she happened to still be alive. She didn't even do anything. Same thing with Toph trained Korra, and like hung out a little bit, but there wasn't much. So I'm a little bit. I mean, I'm happy for it though. I just hope, like, especially considering the way these characters seem to be acting now, as much as I do like their old personalities, if you're going to keep them around, don't just bring them back to die again. Give them some new arcs. Give them some new stuff to talk about. Let them deal with the fact that they now have no free will and stuff like that. Like, give all the Chaos Revivals, your Chaos Galans, your Chaos Melasculas, your Chaos Gloxinias, your Chaos Drolls, like, give them arcs. I know there's a lot to ask for from Nakaba, but, like, if you're going to bring these characters back, don't just use them as death fodder. Don't just use them as scaling fodder. As much as, you know, I appreciate some scaling fodder. I love my little tiers and stuff like that. Your commandment tiers, your archangel tiers, blah, blah, blah. But go ahead. Like, have fun with these characters. Do things that we couldn't do in the previous series with them now. I'm not sure how long Fortnite is going to run, but hey, as long as Nagwa wants to do it, I'm gonna keep reading it. I'm gonna keep reviewing it. I don't care if it's a 500 chapter series. He's stuck with me now. I'm in a little bit too deep to give up on Fortnite just now. So let's keep it pushing, Nakaba. Have fun. However, we get to see that there is an eye in the sky in Leonis, and as King Arthur is informed, that Galand and Melascula are preparing for battle. And Arthur very quickly asks, oh, really? Who are they going to fight? Meliodas? And reasonably, and I think Arthur should know this too, considering he ran into Assault Meliodas. I'm not sure if Arthur has, like, once again, it's weird, right? Like, we remember how people sound like, we remember what certain things taste like, we remember what certain things look like, but can you remember what things sense like? Like the amount of something. Like, I can visualize, like, a large mountain of dirt, because I've seen that before. But, like, if Meliodas wouldn't be fighting them, Arthur, and I think you should know this, he would absolutely vaporize them in base. Like, there's nothing here at all that would imply that they could do anything to Meliodas. Like, Meliodas should literally one-shot the two of them. Unless once again, unless these guys are stronger, but I doubt they're strong. I don't know. There's so many. The reason I'm so, like, back and forth, iffy, up and down, left and right about the scaling here is something we're going to get into in a little bit. But we see that while Meliodas is expected to be fighting, Orlandi actually brings up the fact that, well, no, not even Holy Knights are fighting. It's just 4 kids. Well, 4 kids as in 3 boys and 1 girl. And shout out to Orlandi's eyesight. Like, I'm not sure if that's 20/20 vision. That's something special. He only got 1 eye, too. That man got no depth perception. He's able to tell that from that distance. Golly gee willikers. And once again, the knowledge, who has knowledge of the prophecy and who doesn't, is very nebulous. Like, Orlandi doesn't know to recognize those as the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, but some random Holy Knights, I don't know. Oh, but we see that Mortlock realizes, no, like, he understands that, oh wait, these are the 4 Knights, and Arthur snaps awake, like, wait, these are the 4 Knights. And he seems excited to find out that all 4 are together now. Like, he got the entire squad. I was about to make a Ben 10 joke, but there are only 4 of them. So he's interested to see if they're all together. And notably, I guess Orlandi did know, he just didn't put 2 and 2 together. But he's like, wow, these kids are really the Knights of Prophecy destined to destroy Camelot? Like, he's judging them already. Like, he wasn't fodder. Like, fodder. Like Orlandi. once again, didn't you die from blood overdose? Like, you didn't even get fought, bro. Like, you got one punch. I will admit, you did get Saitama. I do remember that. But you drank a little bit too much. You've been drinking. Like, you had a little bit too much. And then you got punched in the gut. And then you exploded. Like, you have no rights, Orlandi. Shut up. No. Well, we see that Orlandi, and this is another thing. This is another thing that's getting me, making me think, making me tap my domer. Orlandi is able to recognize a certain someone. And we see that Gawain has gained out the wazoo, like the traps admittedly don't look as impressive as they did last chapter, but I will admit the sheer muscle definition on her arms is impressive. Like, I need the workout program. And I know Nakaba, I remember someone asked Nakaba in a Q&A, hey, Nakaba, what the heezy, bro? Like, what happens? Well, how do I get built like Escanor? And he's like, well, first, you need to have the grace of sunshine. So maybe this is an impossible physique to reach. But golly, I need the gains. You see that Orlandi actually does recognize Lady Gawain. And it's confirmed that she's King Arthur's niece. And hold on, let me get the Googler out real quick, because I just need to make sure of this. But I'm pretty sure Arthur was adopted, right? Like, if I'm not mistaken, Arthur wasn't actually the royal blood. Did he pull a sword? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, adopted brother. Uther, biological father. Where was this? On the wiki. Manga extra. So from a manga extra, so Uther, See, I don't know. King Arthur's niece, implying some sibling of some sort. He didn't say adoptive niece. So, I really don't know. I don't know, because Kay is the only person we've seen. And, yeah, so Kay was the son of the current king of Camelot. Oh, no, son of a holy knight. I'm so confused. But essentially, who the heezy is Arthur? Like, who, in the same vein, to we never saw no sister for Hauser, that apparently is Donnie's mom. We did not see no family for Arthur, outside of apparently Uther, who was mentioned in some manga extra that I just missed. So, kind of wondering, kind of confused, kind of intrigued. I wonder if their family is anything important. And once again, Granny and Gramps is popping up. So Orlandi's able to recognize Lady Gawain, meaning she exists in a hemisphere where Orlandi would know about her and recognize her on sight, while in comparison he can't recognize the four knights of the apocalypse. So Granny, that was mentioned, I believe, last chapter or the chapter before, could hypothetically be Merlin, because we know Merlin usually haunts around Arthur. Though admittedly, we don't see Merlin anywhere near in this chapter. So Mortlock is here standing by instead of Merlin. Wonder what she's off doing. But it's interesting that once again, I made a whole video saying Arthur's the best he's ever been in Four Knights of the Apocalypse, and I still stand by that. I love him way more. And this is one of the main reasons why. Like, you see that once Arthur realizes that my niece? He has this like shocked, big-eyed look on his face. Mortlock twitches and realizes, oh no. And then Arthur buries his face in his hand. He can't bury it in his hands. He only got the one. Bro, lacking, I ain't gonna lie. Imagine only having one hand. Could be me. But I'm sorry. But he has his face buried in his hand. And then Mortlock's like, hey, I'm sorry, sir. You know, I just feel your pain. I understand the struggle. You're going to have to fight one of your own. And then he just bursts out into laughter. And is the term what, like, hold on, wild stallion? Maybe Gawain does just identify as a man. Like, I'm legit wondering. Stallion, an uncastrated male adult horse. Does Gawain just identify as a guy? Because, like, notably, everyone's called her horse and/or stallion. Like, Arthur specifically refers to her as a stallion here. And I just popped stallion into the Googler. And some definitions from Oxford Languages, an uncastrated, no less, male horse. And we saw that Gawain was definitely trying to make some moves on Isol. So, you know, it could be like that when it be like that sometimes. But then again, he refers to her as a stallion, then immediately refers to her as a she. I'm so confused. But regardless, maybe I'm just looking too deep. But it is cool to see that Arthur, even Arthur, has somewhat low opinion of his niece. Like, it's hilarious to see him break out in the laughter like this. But at the same time, it shows that he's like, I have no fear and no respect for this child. Which is very interesting, very interesting. I wonder, once again, I'd like to see their backstory, since obviously they know, at least Arthur knows her, and it's very likely she knows Arthur. So, kind of a treat. Then we get to see that the like button is free. Also, the subscribe button. If you haven't hit either of those, please do. Hit the like button. It greatly helps out the channel, helps out the video, helps out everybody. Thank you. And it takes 5 seconds and it's free. Also, the subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying what you're doing so far, please hit that too. It'll greatly help me out. However, we get to see Arthur rise up and he's like, whew. Like, you ever, I do admit, I do like this. Oh, my sides. Like, even Arthur, he had such a gut-busting laugh that his sides are hurting. Once again, I know I bring it up almost every chapter review, but it's the little extra details like that that really make me enjoy Nakaba's character writing in particular. He has a lot of human elements in there, even to crazy world-destroying, world-creating madmen like Arthur. But we see that Arthur locks in, and he's like, yeah, whew, okay, yeah. But as long as the vision belongs to them, they're a step ahead in precision intel and maneuvering. But notably, but that will end today. But here's the thing, right? Before we get into what is crazy that happens here and could go crazy for later chapters, like precision intel and maneuvering. You know the vision is cheeks. Like you can't really, like you get an idea. Like notably the most specific vision, quote unquote, you ever gotten is the description of the knights. And even then, that was pretty darn vague. Like a boy with no consistent form. I'll admit the one with holiness and evil in his eyes is pretty easy. But golden colored magic and green hair. So admittedly 3 of the 4 were pretty darn good. But like Bartra's vision is pretty darn vague. I'm not gonna lie. You definitely want something like Guinevere, who Guinevere just seems to know things, like actual things, and can just tell you things, rather than Bartra, where you have to like check your horoscope, look at the sky, make sure the stars are aligned in the right way, and hope for the best that you interpreted this very vague prophecy kind of well, or else you're just wrong. However, we see that Arthur stands up and he's like, we cracked the neck, we cracked the leg, oh lord, my knee. Like he's getting up, and Mortlock obviously asks, like, my lord, where are you off to, man? Like, you gotta go pee. And we see that Arthur, casually, mind you, declares that, oh, I'm just off to assess them. And notably, I'm trying to think. Like, this could mean many things, but the first thing I want to point out is, doesn't Arthur look old? Like, he looks older than he was before. Like, his face is longer, he has a much more square jawline. He just seems bigger. I'm not sure if that's just, he seems bigger, girthier, if you will. But I'm not sure if that's just perspective or, like, art style shift changing, because it's like, this is a whole page. Like, Nakaba's just like, you know, I gotta put as much emphasis on this as possible, and skinny face Arthur wouldn't do it as well. I wonder. I really wonder, because it's not, technically it wouldn't be impossible for Arthur to reality manipulate his age up, down, left, right, auto combo, wombo combo, like everywhere. Like, it wouldn't be impossible for him to. So I wouldn't be shocked if he did that and just was like, okay, let me age up a little bit more so I can take on, because like the thing is, where is he going to assess them? Is he just going to be floating in the sky? Is he going to drop in and fight them himself? If so, once again, what does this mean for Leo? Like, Arthur is so focused on this idea of precision intel. We need the data. But if he's freely able to leave his domain without anything bad happening to it, like he seems to be doing here, like he says, he's going to go to assess them. And notably, it seems like he can't see through Orlandi, so maybe he's just going to float there and watch. But in that same vein, if you're in the kingdom at that point, you might as well just slaughter them all, for one, and two, go fight Meliodas. If he's the only roadblock. But then again, once again, that's why I'm so weirdly hung up on where Meliodas is right now in terms of raw strength. Because this is 16 years of Chaos Arthur. Like, this man should be a demon amongst demons. A demon for demons, by demons, amongst demons. Like, honestly, this man should be a beast and should be able to just soul the verse on his own. But for some reason, he isn't. I'm just very intrigued. I want to know why that is. I want to know where that comes from. I want to know what this means. And I want to see how Melly scales. Because, I don't know, anyone scaling to chaos is pretty darn impressive. So I'm intrigued to see where that goes. However, I will readily admit that if he does show up in Slaughter Meliodas, I'd be happy. But that's another story for another time. Let's move on to see that back in Leonis, some of the knights are standing by, and they're actually looking at the group, and they're like, wait a minute, if Prince Tristan and Sir Lancelot together, it has to be them. The four knights of the apocalypse. And notably, I don't know why, I really love the shots of all four of them together, like panel to panel to panel to panel, back to back. I do like their combined panels a bit more, though it's cool to see all their different reactions once again. Like, Tristan doesn't necessarily look scared or anything. Like, notably, he doesn't have a blush, he doesn't have a sweat, nothing. Like, he's just seemingly focused in, locked on. Maybe not necessarily confident. Well, no, I'd say confident, but not overconfident, if that's the word. And then you see Percy. Percy's sweating. Like, he has 2 sweat drops. He's blushing. He has his lips are pursed. Like, he's obviously a bit scared of these two compared to Tristan. And then you have Lancelot, who's literally just smiling in their face. like legitimately, he's like, y'all fought her, and you know it. And then we get to see Gawain is also smiling. So notably, the levels of confidence are obviously different throughout the group. And we get to see that even Galand and Melascula are like, hold on a minute, I'm sorry. You, the person who's the size of my thigh, are here to crush us. And Melascula is straight up like, you know, the stupider they are, the harder it is to tell them they're stupid. And Galand even agrees. Admittedly, this is like the only time I've been cool with Galand's like human body. Like the way he's swinging his helmet head around and he's just like cracking, getting loose. I really do like that. And then once again, I love these two's dynamic. Like, for some reason, Melascula and Galand have one of my favorite like duo dynamics in all of Seven Deadly Sins, even though we see it for such a short period of time. Like, we saw it for what? Right after Melios beat Galand up to the point where Galand got turned to stone, which was not that long of a chapter stretch. I think it was like barely a 10 to 20 chapter stretch. So this duo, despite being so rare-sighted, is very, very good. And we get to see that, and I love this, right? So we get this widespread. We get to see Melascula's rotating her weird flesh, dark thingamajig around her. Whatever Melascula's into, all right? I'm not here to judge anybody. But we see Galand. Oh my! No. Admittedly, I'm not here to say Galand skips leg day, right? But I am here to say his genetics are off, bruh. Like, why is his forearm into his hand longer than his legs? Like, it just feels wrong. Like, his upper body is so big, so girthy, so sizable, that it just looks wrong to see him jump like that. Like, he's jumping, and it just looks so strange. I'm not gonna lie. And it's so weird that he's uneven now. Like, notably, his face was uneven after Meliodas socked the life out of it. But now that his horns are uneven, it just looks weird. And notably, upon further inspection, you can see that as Galand leaps, there is actually some movement going on the knight side too. We see that Gawain is like moving her blade downwards, because you see the speed lines, they're going that way, as if she's preparing for battle. And we see that Tristan, he seems to be mid-movement, like there's dust around him. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be him stopping movement or him getting ready to move, like he's kicking up dust. But notably, the only people who aren't moving are Lancelot and Tristan. Lancelot and Percy. They're the only two that are not moving. And notably, we see this cost them kind of a lot, but, well, no, it only costs one of them quite a lot, because we see in the very next panel, and once again, I love it. I mentioned this on my TikTok, which you can follow down below. The link is always in the description, and I think you'll enjoy the content over there. You'll probably get around 4 to 5 videos a day on average, so I think you would enjoy that. But I mentioned how I love it when mangaka do something like this. Like, they skip the transitionary panel, and they just go into the action. And Nakaba does that. Is that an incomplete building? I'm looking at the background of this, and I see this. maybe editing me will do it. But like, I see this large blank spot that looks like it's supposed to be a building outline that Nakaba just forgot to do the building details for. Let me see, is it in the next shot? Well, no, it's not in the next shot because Galand is there. But once again, something I mentioned on the TikTok is how I love the way that some mangaka portray speed, and it's through simply skipping. It's scene skipping, if you will, because essentially Galand goes from mid-leap to instantly on them. Like, notably, Melascula's thing only moves barely into the sky, and she doesn't move at all before Galand has absolutely cleared the distance and starts slobber knocking fools. Speaking of slobber knocking, make sure you slobber knock that like button. You make sure you slobber knock that like button, considering it is free. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you slobber knock that subscribe button because it would greatly help me out. However, it is amazing to see Galand just go in. However, notably, as much as I love his speed transition here, it is kind of sad. I really liked his weapon, the halberd he had. I think it was very, very cool. So seeing him resort to fisticuffs, well, it's a little disappointing. Though I do like how Nakaba portrays it. It's like this monstrous savage rush where he just leaps in and is just slamming his fists everywhere. Like he's cracking, swashing, blamming. Like he just doesn't care. He's going wild, and I love that. And it very much fits Galand's character. And we get to see that Galand did actually make some contact. He didn't just swing in air, but he only made contact with 2 people. And notably, those 2 people get slammed. Like, straight up, I'm not exactly sure how many buildings one gets slammed through, but the one that we can see, hold on, let me see. Is there even more? Golly, before they hit the wall. They get slammed through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They get slammed through 5 buildings before they end up lodged in a wall by Galand just simply swinging at them. And we know in Seven Deadly Sins, they're like multiple amps you can get. And one of the biggest amps you can get is wielding a proper weapon in comparison to your bare hands or bare fingers or bare fists and stuff like that. Like, notably, Meliodas was so strong every time he wielded a real sword that he simply couldn't anymore. He downgraded to a weaker sword. It isn't just with magic infusion, magic potency, just having a weapon makes you stronger, which obviously does line up with our real life, but the gap in strength is actually kind of crazy in Seven Deadly Sins. But then we get to see that without the halberd still, he's able to tag 2 of the 4 knights, and notably he even notes like, two. I only got 2. What happened to the other ones? And we see that while Galand is lying in the rubble, or at least standing there, he actually ends up looking around. And this once again goes to show you like the raw difference in the knights. Like there's just a hierarchy displayed here, right? Because obviously Percival and Gawain, they simply are not the ones. They both got slobber knocked, which is still pretty darn good for both of them if they survive. And we see Tristan, like, it's hard to put into perspective how far Tristan moved. Like, legitimately, in the time it took for Galand, I mean, maybe there was time when he was like, Galand was like swinging everywhere and smashing and apparently missing, but it is still insane that in that small instant, Tristan ended up like multiple buildings high into the sky. Like, Tristan is at least probably 100 feet in the air. He's absolutely clear of the dust cloud. Galand could not even track the man as he went multiple, like, hundreds of feet into the air. And the craziest thing about this is that Tristan didn't activate nothing. The man, at least supposedly, was in base. He legit was just existing, and suddenly he was like, oh, don't worry, I'm just gonna go hundreds of feet into the air and hopefully not get caught. And notably, while Melascula did appear to like track him and keep up with him, still, that is a crazy feat that he managed to avoid. Galand, of all people, leaping at him at max speed and up that far away, all with no amps. No amps. Man just popped out the wings easy, like light work. The man did nothing else. It's crazy. And then we get to see Melascula. She wasn't about to take that disrespect like that, and she leaps in, and notably she uses Cage of Darkness, right? And admittedly, when I first read this, which you can check out on the Patreon, you know, for as low as $1 a month, but the thing is, when I first read it, I was like, that's not, at least it didn't look like darkness, like that weird fleshy mouth thing that looked like human meat. Like, it straight up looked like people merged together and rolled into a ball. Like, how is this darkness? And if we get to see that Tristan, despite his speed, this is a tier above Tristan's speed, because he can't First, he got caught off guard by Melascula, implying that she did evade all of his perception too, his sensory, not only like visual perception, but also like his senses. Like he couldn't sense her despite her large amount of power. Maybe because he was distracted looking for Percival and Gawain, but even still, he should be able to sense someone of her might being that close. And also, he couldn't dodge the Cage of Darkness. Like, notably, he couldn't just zip on out of there. He did end up actually getting trapped. And, like, see, once again, let me break the metal a little bit. So, usually, I try to draw before I record, but sometimes I record before I draw. So, this is a case where, like, I'm being all nasty and disgusted, but I'm 99% sure I'm somewhat going to draw this massive weird flesh thing. But it is absolutely disgusting. We see it chomps directly on Tristan. But notably, the reason I'm so hesitant to start, like, attributing feats to everybody, right? Like, notably, this is supposedly my dream, right? Like, I've been begging, waiting, hoping, tasting, frothing at the mouth for some scaling. But not only does it seem like both characters seem to be fundamentally different than they were before, right? Like, Galand, as cool as he was, we never saw him punch things. He was a weapon user, and we know weapons amp you massively in Seven Deadly Sins, like to an insane degree. Like, you without a weapon, and this is even before, remember, this is before magic amps, by the way, that you can stack on top of your weapon, but base you is weaker than base you with a stick. And then base you with a broken sword is better than base you with a stick. And like, it just goes up and goes up and goes up. Galand had a halberd, and who knows, it probably was just a hunk of metal. Still, that sharp, good hunk of metal amped him a lot. It's just him having it. So we don't know if he really scales to his previous self, especially since we don't know if he's even in critical over. He may just be, he was revived in what seems like critical over, but does that mean he doesn't have a magic anymore? And also he's using battle spells and stuff like that. Like, unless he was just holding back in the previous Holy War, and he always had those battle spells at his disposal, I highly doubt this is the way that Galand will be fighting. I'm not sure how strong all this is. And in the same vein with Melascula. Notably, she says, not even Meliodas could escape that dark space easily, but by adding chaotic force, it can now consume anyone's body and soul in just 30 minutes. Now, notably, if you are a solo Four Knights reader, like you have no context of Melascula other than what you've seen in Four Knights, consuming someone's body and soul in 30 minutes sounds pretty crazy. But for everyone who does have any context of Seven Deadly Sins, you know that that's not impressive at all. Like, maybe the whole body thing, and notably it says anyone, so all my no limits fallacy people go crazy, but notably, all Melascula had to do when she set up Cage of Darkness was touch you, and then your soul was, unless she had soul resistance. The only reason she didn't do it to Meliodas when he was in there was because she literally knew, wait a minute, this man can fight. And he's way stronger than he is before. Like, she simply couldn't drain Demon Mark Meliodas of his soul post-resurrection. Like, she was struggling to drain base, post-druid, bleeding, dying on his deathbed Meliodas. So obviously a full, healthy one isn't going to have his soul popped out real quick. But every other time, against beings that should either be comparable to or stronger than that Meliodas, that have a little human, that have a little extra sauce in them, remember what she did to Bond. Remember what she did to Escanor. She just one-tapped them and their soul came out. So it seems like these two are either directly weaker, just because of how the verse works. Like Galand, 1, was not a magic user, and 2, he had a weapon, and we know weapons amp you. So he just seems weaker on that front. And 2, Melascula seems weaker because her magic just isn't as effective. If she can't, like, phase through the flesh ball, which I perfectly get, it is indeed a flesh ball. Like, if she can't phase through that and just, boop, tap the soul out, she lost one of the best things about her. And if she really needed to sit there, like, no character that's relative to you is going to sit in that ball for 30 minutes. Simply put, I can't even think of a fight in Seven Deadly Sins that may have lasted 30 minutes outside the invasion of the kingdom. That was a sequence of fights. So it's crazy that her magic is weakened that much, which is something, part 1, well, really part 3 of me wondering how much do these guys scale to their original selves. First, you have Mortlock's statement earlier, which isn't definitive enough to be like, oh, these are the exact equals as they were when they were shown in Seven Deadly Sins, meaning they were exactly commandment level. 2, you have this whole idea that they are both weaker for different reasons, but are showing their weakness in completely different ways on panel to us, and something that's going to come later. But we get to see that once again, sensory abilities are so weird in Seven Deadly Sins. Like, I know you can suppress yourself to probably hide your location, and there are some magics that I believe completely conceal you, that like you just can't perceive people at all. But it's crazy that Galand literally has to ask Melascula where Lance went. Like, he knows he hit Gawain and Percival. He knows where Tristan is because he just saw Tristan get by Melascula's flesh ball. But now he has to ask where Lance is. And y'all tell me Lance is on the same level? Huh? You're telling me Lance is on the same level as these fools? These imbeciles? These imbeciles. Miss Porter. If you get that reference, you're either a regular Pat fan or you know Kingdom Hearts a little bit too well, just like me. But the thing is, the like button is free. And also the subscribe button. They're both free. And if you hit them both, they'll greatly help out the video, the channel, and me. So I'd greatly appreciate it. And it's free, so it doesn't even hurt you. However, the thing is, like, Lance blitzing Galand to the point, like, notably, you could argue Tristan's feat is a bit more impressive because he goes an extreme distance. But, like, I still think Tristan just went up. Like, he straight up zoomed. Like, he went straight to the heavens, which is still impressive considering the time frame that he did it. But in that same vein, Melascula was able to track him. Meanwhile, neither commandment was able to put out, like, they weren't able to keep their senses up for where Lancelot was. He just absolutely blitzed them, body bagged him. Like, straight, well, not body bag, but he straight up evaded it. Like, Galen's even in shock, like, whoa, wait, how are you able to evade it? And and at least on a speed wise, that shows like the different tiers of speed. Percy and Gawain just way too slow. Like, in terms of combat speed, neither one of them even remotely compares to Tristan or Lance. They both got hit. They both got hit by Galand. Meanwhile, Lancelot styled on Galand, like straight up avoided everything without breaking a sweat, and Tristan flew high up into the air. So Gawain, and that is literally a quantifiable speed feat right there, that Gawain and Percival are just tiers below Tristan. Well, not tiers, multiple, but at least there's a solid gap anyway in speed, in combat speed and relativity, and how they like perceive and can react in fights between Gawain and the upper two knights. And there also seems to be a different degree of like speed and combat prowess when it comes to Lancelot and Tristan, based on how both of them reacted and how both of them were put in certain situations by these two commandment tiers. That's what I'm so hesitant to call them commandment tiers. These chaos commandments, if you will. But then we get a good durability feat, and hallelujah, thank the Lord, we're scaling, babies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, because look at this. We got, so notably, we have no idea what time of day it is. Unfortunately, since it's been raining all day, we have no idea what position the sun is relative. At least, I don't think we do. Hold on, wait a second, let me see something. Yeah, I went back to the prophecy and Guinevere to see if they actually gave us a time of day. We have no idea. It's just a quote-unquote midday moon. So Gawain could likely, like, depending on when we ever get context for this fight, the reason Gawain may have been able to face tank this better than she did against Pellgard, where she actually took like a lot more conceivable damage, even though she got punched way harder and punched way more here, is hypothetically just because she got amped. Like, she may be getting closer and closer to the one state. However, if this is contextualized to be the afternoon, and she's been getting weaker, that kind of go crazy, I ain't gonna lie. But this is actually solid definitive scaling. At least based on Gawain, using Gawain as a center point, it seems like Pellgard was able to do more feasible damage that actually damaged Gawain's ego a whole lot more than Galand did. So, depending on where this Galand scales, and whether he's equal to his equivalent self or not, or whatever, like, if he's equal to his equivalent self, then Pellgard is, at bare minimum, commandment tier. But he could be higher, considering other factors, which is very impressive. I like that. Good scale. Good scale. We appreciate that. Thank you, Nakama, for finally giving me a link. Something. Like, I notably, back when Seven Deadly Sins first came out and like the first major arc was going on, I wasn't as into power scaling. I watched power scaling videos, but I wasn't thinking about it myself. But man, I can imagine how painful that must be. Like in the early seasons, you're getting introduced to all these characters and you're like, where do you go? But that shows, at least durability wise, Gawain is pretty solid against these against a commandment tier, and it makes you wonder, like, how does that scale relative to our other stats? Because notably in Seven Deadly Sins, once you get stronger, all your stats increase, like your power, your speed, your durability. Like, look at Meliodas pre getting his power back, and look at Meliodas post getting his power back. He got just his power, but then he got way faster, way stronger. His magic got better. Like every single stat increases. So simply put, even with this amazing durability feat, going by Seven Deadly Sins logic, considering she wasn't able to dodge, and Lancelot was able to dodge, and Tristan was able to dodge, they're still likely stronger than her by a decent margin, just because of the raw gap in speed. And it also kind of makes it bad for Gawain, because if anyone has an attack that's strong enough to, like, actually damage her, based off previous scaling her statements, and then she can't react to it, she may just get vaporized, not gonna lie. But the thing is, we see that she is sticking to her mantra, right? She's like, I am the strongest, I'm invincible. And she's stomping forward. And I love, like, if this is the perfect example of two idiots fighting. Like, straight up. Galand, when seeing his enemy is still alive, he's like, oh my, you still defy me even after taking a strike? I can't wait to make mincemeat out of you. And we get an attack known as Full Sin Smash. And notably, remember, Pellgard only hit Gawain once, and she was sent both flying. But even with Full Sin Smash, Galand isn't able to knock her back anymore. Like, he's focusing all his attention on her, and he can't turn her into mincemeat, which is, once again, great durability for Gawain, and great scaling for Pellgard, depending on whether or not. That's the issue with Gawain Sunshine. Like, Escanor, very easy indicator whether it was daytime or nighttime. It was either constantly being mentioned, and or you could just visually see it. The man was getting more gains, he was growing. Meanwhile, unless you want to use, like, Nakaba's inconsistent drawing of Gawain's height as an indication of her growing with power with Sunshine, I don't know. I'm gonna, for the sake of Pellgard, since I love him, I'm just gonna say he commandments here. Let's go with that. And we see that Gawain's able to face tank a lot of it. And then here's the final piece that really makes you wonder, how well do these guys actually scale to their previous commandment selves? And the thing is, the reason I'm saying that is Melascula goes on to note that, wait a minute, it's taking us this long to destroy a couple of kids. We may be out of practice. And makes sense. They've been dead. Like, maybe not dead, but I doubt Melascula is just floating around in this form forever. I'm assuming she was recently returned to this state through the powers of chaos, and obviously Galand literally just got revived. Like, not 5 minutes ago, bro was just, his soul was just wandering the depths of purgatory, probably fighting some demons. Well, not demons, because demons don't exist in purgatory, because the demon team didn't create purgatory, but he was fighting some of the creatures down there. So obviously he's not used to having this new weird human fleshy body, and obviously this is new magic from Melascula. Sure, she has some aspects of her previous darkness. Speaking way too fast. She has dumb aspects. She has some aspects of her darkness manipulation through the flesh ball. Like, she can still use some of her previous spells, and she obviously just revived Galand, but still, that doesn't make it so that she's still on the same level as she was before, especially considering how hefty that commitment amp could have been. So, with the three factors there, we don't know if they were restored to their original power through Mortlock's statement. We don't know if these guys are even towards their same level of strength that they were in the beginning, because one is lacking a weapon and fighting completely differently, and one doesn't have access to their traditional toolkit and is trying to use it in different ways, and three, one even admits that they may be rusty. And notably, rusty in Seven Deadly Sins, I'd say it's one of the worst verses you can be rusty in, because notably when characters get rusty, they get massively weaker. Like, remember, End of War Meliodas could still go into assault mode. Like that man was a demon. Like, End of Holy War, I'm talking 3,000 years past Meliodas, that man a demon. But he got rusty and literally became a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction as strong as he actually should have been, just through simply getting rusty. We've seen in Seven Deadly Sins, you getting rusty can do a whole lot to you, even the demons, which is why I bring up Meliodas in particular. Like, we've seen other people get massively weaker. Like, well, then again, I'm not sure if Elizabeth's reincarnation counts as her getting rusty, or her just like not being human. Like, I'm not sure how much that counts, but the idea of being rusty in the Seven Deadly Sins verse is pretty detrimental to your level of power. And we see that, and essentially I'm saying that all this comes together to imply that the narrative may be pushing the idea that these guys are not relatives of their commandment selves. And this, it creates a new tier. Like, it's not the worst thing ever, but it kind of makes scaling a little bit difficult. Like say you were going to debate with somebody, and like you were trying to argue, okay, via scaling chain here, Pellgard scales to, well, yeah, let's say you're trying to put Pellgard somewhere in the original series. You're trying to run a battle with Pellgard. Pellgard is able to damage Gawain, which Chaos Galand is struggling to do, and he managed to defeat her in one shot. Thusly, Pellgard solos all of Season 1 because he should scale relative to Season 2 Galand, who literally solos the verse. And me, if I had to make an argument against that, though, I don't know why I would. I love Pellgard. I would say the like button is free. So is the subscribe button. It really helped me out if you hit those. But in actuality, like straight up, you say I'm arguing against you, I'd be like, well, via Mortlock's statement, the variation in their fighting styles, and the new nature of their fighting styles, and Melascula's own statement, it seems to be that these guys aren't as powerful, unless you can't just directly scale them to their previous selves because they may be weaker. They're also missing things like commandment amps, which comes from them lacking their commandments since they were destroyed, and we know that gives us a supplemental amount of power, considering what Ludishel described, the graces and the commandments being equal, and you can see with characters like Mael, that lacking your commandment, while it may not do some things to some characters like Zeldris and Meliodas, it can do a lot to certain characters such as Mael, the Archangels, and even the other members of the Demon Clan. Like, that's personally how I would argue against that. And that's only being supplemented by all the statements made here. So maybe Nakaba's trying to tell us, like, their commandment tier, wink, like he may be winking extremely hard at us right now, and it kind of sucks. Like notably, I wouldn't have even minded if you just made them regular. Like, all you had to say is they are equal to themselves when they were alive, even though they are lacking certain abilities that they were before. Like, that's all you. I know that's oddly specific, and it is very specific now that I think about it. But still, you could have just made that statement. I would have been like, okay, I believe you. Like, you would have gotten no combat out of me for that. I would have been like, yes, good, great, I appreciate that. Like, perfect, go with that. But it appears that things are a little bit more complicated, and I can hear the debates raging already. However, we do get to see, cutting back into the chapter and get off my power scaling rant, we do get to see that a certain blade pierces straight through the flesh ball, and we get Enchant Heaven's Lightning. Ooh, that's fancy. The Melascula, once again, 30 minutes, bruh? 30 minutes? You think someone's just gonna sit there for 30 minutes? Like, at that point, you might as well just get rid of them the regular way. If you're gonna keep someone trapped in a ball for 30 minutes to erase their body and soul, you might as well just get rid of their soul through their body the old-fashioned way. But we see Enchant Heaven's Lightning. Notably, a lot of the goddesses, for some reason, tend to lack their own original magic, and the most like complicated we've ever seen magic, or like goddess magic outside of Arc, I think Zenari and the other one, the druids that were goddesses, like they happen to possess dying human, no, I think they were literally dead human bodies, and they just possessed them and they're living forever. Those two, I believe in the troll backstory, they have like electric magic, but that's about it. Like, no other goddess we've seen, I'm pretty sure, has their own innate magic. It's not like the graces that were given to the goddesses, like the four archangels, it's not like it suddenly was amplifying abilities they already had. You can see, once Mael uses his grace, he has no fire powers. Like, that's it. And assumingly the same would apply to Tarmiel and Sariel. And obviously, Flash is just an enhancement of previously existing arc abilities that exist within a person. So I wonder if Tristan the reason I bring this up is I wonder where Tristan learned enchant. Like, is this Heaven's Lightning actually just real lightning? Because the blade he swings just appears to be like an arc extension to his blade. It doesn't actually seem like proper lightning in comparison, because we've seen how Nakaba draws lightning, and that's not it. But if Tristan, like, once again, it's very easy to forget, but his grandparents literally made worlds, and his great-grandparent made the verse. So reasonably, it wouldn't be too crazy. Like, I wasn't even thinking of this, and I've yet to record the Tristan potential video, mainly because the list is long, and I know I need to sit down and have a solid block of time to record that, and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But reasonably, he could have some world creating potential in him too, being completely honest, considering his lineage. So it wouldn't really be shocking to me if he had just natural control over all the elements, just once again considering his heritage. Though at least at this point, this does not seem to be like the actual elements. But we see for some reason, like, Tristan, like, one, it's cool to see that while base Tristan may have been caught off guard by Melascula, yeah, them goddess eyes go crazy. And notably, it's weird, it's crazy, but Tristan is still holding back. Like, at least assumingly, right? Because we don't know what the different scales of power are, but I really don't know in terms of where to go with Tristan. Like, so there's base, obviously. Base is the weakest, right? But is double Triskelion stronger than one Triskelion, one Demon Eye? Is double Demon Eye stronger than two Triskelion, or half and half? Like, is the merger bad? Is the merger good? I assume the merger of Demon Eye and Goddess Eye is the strongest, because it's using both halves of his heritage at full strength, so assumingly, or maybe not full strength, because we don't see a demon mark or anything like that, but I truly and honestly don't know. But assumedly, I'm going by a guess reasonably, I would think that usually the double wombo combo would be the strongest thing out there. So the fact that he is straight up looking at these commandments and he's judging the situation, right? And he's like, okay, I only need one sword and I only need my goddess eyes. Like, he straight up doesn't take them seriously enough to think he needs any more than that, which is pretty darn impressive. And it makes sense considering he is implied to be pretty decently above Gawain, and both power due to his heritage and obviously technique, because he's actually gotten real training in comparison to Gawain. And also, he's supposedly relative to Lancelot. So we see that gap between Lancelot, Tristan, and the other four knights is still pretty darn big. And it makes sense that he'd be able to bully Melascula in an amped state when Galand is struggling to take on a Gawain, or not necessarily take on, but struggling to damage a Gawain, who already is shown to be weaker. However, we get to see that Tristan is on his, like, preacher energy, because he's like, we will never be defeated, because we were chosen to shake away the darkness that threatens to come Britannia. We are the hope of the land. And I guess, like, notably we get to see that Meliodas is standing there somewhere, probably looking at Bartra or something like that. And we see Lancelot, he's kind of just standing there, like, he lost his smirk, he's just studying something else. In fact, I think he is looking at Percival. And then we get to see Percival. When I say bro died, I mean bro died. Like he's straight buried under rubble in the corpse of a building. And then something about them hope amps go crazy, bro. Because, like, I've always been joking, like, ever since we saw the gap between Tristan and the other Knights of the Apocalypse, my consistent running joke is, as well, sorry Tristan, sorry Lance, sorry Gawain, but do me a favor, just keep killing Percival. like keep near deathing him, or just straight deathing him. As we've seen, he can return from death. Like, keep executing him until he's on your level. And I was kidding, but it seems like he did die here, and he is getting a hope amp, because his magic is exploding after he got sent through the wall. However, notably, his blood isn't going away, he's still bleeding, which is interesting. So maybe he's merging his hope and his despair to achieve... what is the balance between hope and despair? Normalcy? I'm not sure what the balance of that would be. However, we do see he's getting a massive amp. Where this amp will place him, assumedly still below. I still think he's not going to jump any higher. Like, I think Gawain will still be stronger. I think. Maybe not, who knows. But I think Gawain will still be stronger. I think Tristan will still be stronger. And I think Lance will still be stronger. But Percy may now become relevant within the fight, especially considering he's the only one outside. Well, no, I think about it. The only one, they all have weapons. The only one who doesn't have like a close combat weapon is Lance. But we know he has his arrows. So he has a pretty good blade. So if he starts infusing that magic in there, that 10 times amp would go crazy. Kabonkers, if you will. So we're definitely in good standing. However, that's the end of the chapter. This is, once again, I bring this up every once in a while. Nakaba ends chapters in just generally weird spots. Like this page of Tristan powering up, you think would lead to like a real end page where it would be like the knights posted up, like that, like we get like a, once again, like a 4-way split of all of them against their opponents, all determined and lined up. But no, it just ends here. So that's the end of the chapter. However, really solid chapter. I do like it, mainly because of, oh, but it got started. The power scaler would be, I don't know, I'm happy yet I'm worried, because I can tell the discussions that can come from this. I'm excited that we aren't getting carbon copies of the previous characters and we're getting variations on them. However, the scaling, this person in me that loves simple scaling would prefer if Morlock had said, why did you restore them to their original power? And they weren't rusty, and this is just new because they're part human now, but they're equivalent to their previous selves. That would make this so much easier. But the part of me that does love complicated, stupid, like looking into background details, compiling details and stuff like that, like the part of me that made the star meta, which I'm so happy to see everywhere now, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a proud father. Speaking of proud father, the like button is free, so is the subscribe button. But like the proud father in me is super happy that I see the star meta everywhere now. And admittedly, it's not necessarily needed too much anymore because of the movie, but still, I'm so happy to see it. And that just comes from doing stuff like this, reading the chapters super in depth, looking back at chapters that are important for scaling and be like, hey, we can do this, that, and the other thing. So I do appreciate that. But not just the scaling in this chapter. One, the new portrayal of their abilities, like full sin smash, Cage of Darkness, Flesh Edition, like all these new variations on their existing attacks, really cool. I'm excited to see them, and I can't wait to see them further in action. Seeing the run back between the Sun and the Truth in Gawain v Chaos Galand will be very interesting. I like seeing the start of that. Seeing Lance just prove that he's just a different kind of demon by his casual styling and blitzing of these commandments, really cool. Seeing the whole idea that Arthur may be popping up ready to assess the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, aka he may really just show up in Leonis and say, fine, I'll do it myself. I'm excited. I'm shivering my boots. He may just go watch them from a distance or something like that. The possible implications of Meliodas v Arthur, exciting. And obviously we still have the whole other plot where Meliodas is now guarding Bartra, possibly alongside Elizabeth, from that weird hooded figure that could come and try to clap Bartra's cheeks. So I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm very intrigued. There's a whole ton of setup in this chapter, but this, I will admit, this is actually really good. This is a 10 out of 10 chapter because there's not only setup in this chapter, there's not only build up, but also it's good meat. It's good. It's weird to say good meat, but there's good quality combat in this chapter. It's good pushing, good development, and good scaling. Everything in this chapter, perfect. However, those are my thoughts. Please send me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that little notification will miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Know that I do have a Patreon down below where you support for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, exclusive content, and more. But thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Galand the Pencil, writing off.